my channel. It's Hillary Jubilee. If you're new, I talk about manifestation, conscious creation, and the law of assumption on my channel. This is the second part of the three-part series that I'm doing on a new perspective that I've gained on manifestation in general. If you haven't seen part one, I'll link it above and down below. And let's get right into the video. This part two of the three-part series that I'm doing is about knowing who you truly are, states of consciousness, and living in the end. On my birthday, I watched a Netflix series called Surviving Death. The first episode is about near-death experiences, and it does get a bit heavy at times, which probably didn't help my emotional state that day. But the first episode and the last episode of that series were extremely fascinating. I haven't watched all of them. The first one's about near-death experiences. The last one is about reincarnation. And the second and third are about mediumship. And I can't remember what the rest are about, but they didn't really interest me as much. Maybe I'll go back to them, but it started to get pretty depressing and heavy in the second one about mediumship, so I had to stop because I was already feeling depressed that day. So anyways, the point of me bringing up this show is, so the near-death experiences episode, the first one, there's different people who talk about their experiences of having a near-death experience and about where their consciousness was, what they experienced while their body was medically, clinically dead, but their consciousness was still very much alive and they were experiencing something. Everybody had something different, but they talk about where they went when they died. So each experience was unique, but they all talked about a common theme of a feeling of being wrapped in a very warm, loving, safe, calm, accepting energy. And I believe one woman said it was such a beautiful place and experience that she didn't even want to come back. People spoke of meeting their guides, meeting up with loved ones who had passed away, and they had conversations that they needed to tie up with them, being told that they had more work to do on Earth, so they needed to come back to do that. And the reason I'm bringing this show up is because that common theme of that loving, accepting, calm energy really reminded me of the fact that we are God. If you don't like the word God, it doesn't matter what you call it. Operant power, infinite intelligence, source, I am, whatever, that higher being within us, okay? So that's what that reminded me of when I watched that. First of all, it made me no longer fear death because it sounds like a lovely place and something to, not saying that I want to not be here anymore. I'm enjoying my time here, but I'm just saying there's nothing to fear. And obviously we know this, we don't know everything about life, but watching this show, especially the first and last episodes, reincarnation and near-death experiences, highly recommend those two. It really hits home that we don't know everything that's going on here, and we don't need to, but it puts things into perspective. We don't need to know everything that's going on, why we're here. Just enjoy the ride, man. I was talking to my friend Chris, and we talk about, I think I've mentioned this before in my videos, but we go in depth about the law, and what popped into my mind when I was speaking with him was the song Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Okay, so that line, so first of all, you're rowing your boat down the stream, just merrily, happily living your life. Life is but a dream. So this line and that children's song really reminds me of this line. So there's just a lot. Okay, so when I in part 1, I talked about Kristen Jackson's article about spiritual bypassing. Highly recommend you read her article and watch my video, link it above here. But reading that article triggered me to go back and listen to the I Am Love podcast again. So I've already listened to them all and I've read most of the articles on their website, but it triggered me to go back and do that again. So in one of Jennifer Ramdio's articles, her article is called Everyone and Everything is Yourself Pushed Out, Create Your Own Rules. Excuse me. She writes, I know I will soon wake up from this lucid dream I call life. And I'm tying this in because that row, row, row your boat song, life is but a dream. And she's Jennifer Ramdio saying, I will soon wake up from this lucid dream. That Netflix series, reincarnation, people having near-death experiences, they're going somewhere else, somewhere very lovely, and then they're coming back here. The whole point is, we are here having a human experience. We came here forgetting who we really are underneath our human mask, which is God. That loving, accepting, calm, kind, non-judgmental, safe being is within us, and you can access it at any time. Okay, so you can stop, close your eyes, go within, shut the whole world out, and you can find that being within you at any time. So from this place of knowing who we truly are underneath our human mask, so that human mask is our identity, right? Our name, our race, what we look like, our culture. So in the I Am Love podcast, they talk about this. And I had heard it before, but it's like I was glossing over it before. And it was like, yeah, like just, wasn't really hearing it or something. But it just really dawned on me about like who we really are underneath our human mask, right? So when you know who you truly are, you know everyone, everything is yourself pushed out. All that you could ever desire is already yours because it's not separate from you. Nothing is separate from you. Separation is an illusion, okay? So when you can come back to that knowing of who you truly are, not your human self, but your God self within, nothing can hurt you and all that you desire is already yours. So when you can understand that who you truly are is God and that your human self is a mask or a role that you're playing. So we're always coming from some type of state or another, right? So if you had a really bad day, you're coming from that state of kind of like, solemn, disappointment kind of state. It's not who you truly are. It's just a state of consciousness. If you just became an aunt for the first time, an aunt and uncle for the first time, someone you love or a friend or something just had a baby. This is assuming you like babies. You're coming from a state of love and joy and happiness, right? So, and not saying that outside 3D circumstances are the only thing that dictate our state, not saying that at all, because we get to choose what state we come from. At any point in time, we get to choose that. But I'm just giving an example of different states that we may be coming from. Okay, so understanding the wish-fulfilled state or living in the end, it doesn't mean that you're happy and positive all the time. Doesn't mean that. It means you conceptualize the version of yourself who already has your desires. That version of you has a knowing that these things are already theirs. They wouldn't necessarily be perpetually positive, but they have that knowing that those things are theirs. Like, for example, this house that I live in, I'm not jumping for joy every single day. I mean, I do practice gratitude. I'm grateful that I have a warm house to live in, but my point is, I don't jump for joy. I'm not in a perpetually positive state, like, yes, I live in this house, like, yes. And, not to be insensitive, there are people who don't have a home. So that is why I am truly grateful to have a home and to live where I do and, you know, practice gratitude for all the things I have. But it's not that, you know, that in the LOA community, they talk about match up with the vibration of your desires and, you know, feel super ecstatic for having this now. It's like, okay, but after having something for a while, you get used to having that. So it's just a knowing that it's yours. It's not like, yes, and it's not saying that having that like a super excited feeling of getting something for the first time or when it first comes in, if you can feel elated and happy that like if you're conceptualizing the version of yourself who would have your desires and that makes you feel good, that's fine. It's not like that makes it more fun, right? But what I'm saying is it's not necessary to fabricate that feeling. If it comes in naturally, great, but don't think that you need to force a feeling of elation or it's not going to come. That's just not true. So this version of yourself who has everything that you want, you would think from and act from that state of being. So how are you getting up in the morning? How are you brushing your teeth? How are you going to work? How are you treating others? How are you making your food? What inner conversations are you having? What thoughts are going through your mind? What pictures, what phrases are coming up in your mind? So I'm not saying that scripting and affirming and visualizing are out and just step into the state of who you are, that's it. I'm not saying that. We still want to focus on what we want. But what I am saying is that scripting flows better. Affirmations and visualizations come in naturally when you can operate from this state, okay? The state of yourself who already has your desires. I just find that the affirmations are flowing and I'll just get pictures or visualizations that will just come in naturally. It's not forced. It's not like I'm not looping a visualization over and over. Like you don't need to make it necessary to do those things is what I'm trying to get at. So another source that I came across during this time when felt like I was getting new information every hour was Caleb from Pluto's Gate put out a video about giving your problems to God, okay? And he kept on mentioning Florence Scovel Shinn, if that's how you say her name. And I started listening to her work as well. And there's a lot of gems in her work, okay? So there's something similar that she says, there's an affirmation that she says that's similar to what Caleb is talking about, giving your problems to God. And Florence Scovel Shinn says, I cast this burden of lack on the Christ within, and I go free to have plenty. So again, with Florence and Neville, they are, you know, interpreting the Bible in a certain way. And so when they're talking about Christ or God or things like that, it doesn't necessarily need to have a Christian connotation. It can if you want it to. Everything's just given the meaning that you assign to it. So when she says Christ within, it just means your God self, basically, which is what Kayla was talking about. So this giving your problems to God idea, I was really fascinated by that. And I tried it with a couple areas of life, and I'll just give one example. So I tried it with money, and I just wanted to manifest some money. And I, when you feel that, like, you feel those doubts or those negative, like there's a lack feeling, I physically imagined myself giving my problems upwards. Here you go, God self, you take that and you deal with it. I'm done. I'm not gonna, we don't worry about the how. We just decide what we want and it's coming to us. So just imagined myself physically passing it up. Here's my problem. You take it, you deal with that. You're gonna take care of that for me, thanks. And somebody close to me that I love sent me $500 within 24 hours of me doing that. So this is what I mean. So there's just like a lot of different things that I felt like I was learning at every second. And this made me understand least action in a whole new light. Decide what you want and assume it's already yours. Give those feelings of lack or neediness up to God and just allow it to show up. Get out of the way. Get out of your own way. Just pass those feelings off and just let them go. What you want is yours. And when you know who you truly are, you can understand that there's nothing separate from you and nothing is stopping you from getting what you want. That's all I have for the second part of my 3-part series. Please stay tuned for part 3, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in part 3. Bye.